Hello again, and welcome to Brookhaven, the place featuring 1.5 million annual cases of vehicular manslaughter, houses that appear out of thin air, and oceans that allow everyone to experience what it's like to be Jesus, and also the most cursed roleplays to ever touch Roblox.
You're not my dad!
In a game like Brookhaven with all of its quirks and features, one might ask, how does it all work? Well, that's the question I've come to answer. Perhaps Brookhaven's most peculiar feature are the vehicles. Let's start with the spawning. You can imagine Roblox games as two people that talk to each other. These two people are named client and server. Client is your device and server is the game itself. Server's job is to make sure the game is consistent for all players. The issue comes when UI gets involved. Only client knows about your UI, meaning that when you click on a button to spawn a car, server doesn't know about it. So client needs to use something called a remote event to let server know when to spawn a car in. Using this remote event, client can also tell server a few other things, such as what car to spawn, where to spawn it, and who the car belongs to. If you want to be truly magical, you can hit that subscribe button to help get me to 200 subscribers. Only the most daring souls would ever hit that button. Speaking of ownership, the way games like Brookhaven keep track of who owns what is very important. Why it's important is so that the game knows to despawn a house, car, or other owned object when the player leaves. Each object contains a script that listens for when a player leaves, and when a player does leave, it checks if that player happens to own that object, and if they do, the object gets deleted. And while we're talking about objects, how do houses and cars disappear out of the ether? You better believe in God, because that's the only explanation for how the this works. Well, there's also another explanation. With the drama, it's not that heavenly. The server storage is a place where you can put objects that you want to spawn in your game later. For Brookhaven, these would be houses, cars, and inventory items. What server does when client calls them asking for a car is that server clones the car that client asks for and moves that car into the workspace, which is the place where all objects that can be seen by players go. When client asks for a car, server finds that car in the server storage, uses something called an object value to set the player that spawned it as the owner, and then places the car right in front of the player, which may be in a building. But wait, you can't do that? How the hell does that work? Well, how you do that is you'd have invisible parts on the roads, and the server checks to see if the player is touching that invisible part. If so, it'll spawn the car. If not, a message will pop up saying the car couldn't be spawned. Cloning from the server storage is also how children are spawned. And no, I don't mean children as in the Roblox studio hierarchy. No, I mean literal children. Yeah, welcome to Brookhaven. Like cars, they also have an object value so they can know which player to follow, and so they know when to get deleted. Getting items in your inventory works the same way. Instead of the server putting the item in the workspace, it instead puts it in the backpack, which is where all the player's inventory items are. I'll talk about two more things related to vehicles. How do cars, in only cars, stop right at the ocean? And how can you change the color of your car with the click of a button? Let's start with the ocean. Whenever you're in your car, the game uses a local script, which is a script that only client knows about, to create walls around the map that only you can run into, since only client knows about them. To change the right colors on the car, there are certain parts on a vehicle named paint. When client tells server to repaint the car, yes, this is also done with a remote event, server will change the color on all the parts named paint to the color client specifies. I would talk more about how vehicles work, from the speed modifier to the drift setting to the other game passes related to vehicles. But I'm already at 4 pages of the script, and Awesomewolf is probably going to poop out 4 videos in the time it takes me to write the rest of the script, and probably another 2 videos in the time it takes me to do all my audio and record the footage for it, and probably another 2 more videos in the time it takes me to edit it. So I'm going to move on to... This is my house on an isolated island away from the rest of Brookhaven. I can't believe it. I'm homeless. Here's how you can prevent that with today's sponsor, Brookhaven Missile Insurance. Are you sick and tired of your house constantly getting nuked? Or getting crashed into by supersonic sailboats? Then you need Brookhaven Missile Insurance. Simply activate it by clicking the padlock on the top of the screen, and your doors will be made out of the finest obanium alloy. How does this work? Clicking the lock button tells server to anchor all the doors in the house, meaning that they can't be moved by anything, including supersonic sailboats. But how do these houses spawn in the first place? They spawn the same way cars spawn. They're cloned from the server storage, and an object value is used to keep track of who owns it. But how does the game know where to put the house? Each lot in Brookhaven has an invisible part, and each house also has an invisible part. When the server spawns a house, it lines these two invisible parts up with each other to spawn the house in like magnets. But now let's talk about the subway to the ether. How is this so magical? Well, it isn't magical at all. All the subway does when you step in it is play the same looping video that makes you think the subway is moving, when in reality, the subway isn't moving at all. There are 4 clones of these fake subways around the map, and clicking each one will teleport you to the respective subway. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about... Brookhaven has a variety of different tools to enhance the role player's experience. These include character animations, changing the entire map just for you, and random weather events, just to name a few. Perhaps the most blaring of these features is to literally make brand new buildings appear where they didn't exist before. But it only shows up for you. How is that even possible? This, my friends, is an example of client forgetting to tell server that they're spending the night out. When you click on a button to change the map, only client copies the new map elements from a place called the replicated storage because server didn't give client the combination for the lock on the server storage. Because client isn't telling server that this stuff is being placed in the game, server doesn't show it to everyone, and the only one who ends up knowing about it is the player that client serves. Pretty genius, right? Brookhaven has random weather events that happen every few days. This is a case of server being the strict parent it is and telling client, look, this is what's happening and you're gonna like it. So client just rolls with it and shows this note to the player. There's no remote event needed because server isn't asking for permission, they are commanding client to display this note to the player. Brookhaven also has different jobs that you can do. In reality, they don't mean anything and you just click on a button that puts a fancy label called a billboard GUI on your head. These can display both text and images, and in this case, it shows the entire server what you want to be when you grow up. But now let's talk about character animations. How do they work? Roblox has an object type called an animation, go figure, that contains what are called keyframes. Keyframes tell the animation where different parts of the body are going to be at what time. In the case of Brookhaven, client tells server to apply the animation that the player clicks on to the player. And in Brookhaven, nothing can break your stride. Literally. The animation plays continuously regardless of what the player is doing, because getting a player to stop an animation when they move requires additional code, which the Brookhaven devs were too lazy to code in. But now let's get to the hardest part to explain. The avatar editor. Just like with everything else, client tells server what to put on the player. When a shirt or pant item is selected, it changes the appearance of the shirt or pants already on the player. If a different accessory is selected, it's copied from the catalog and put on the player. Obviously, Brookhaven hasn't put every accessory in existence in the server storage, so the editor needs to copy it from the catalog. So that will do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing and dropping a like on the video. Later.